Exterior, Austin, Texas, dusk. A 90s burgundy Ford is driving down a highway past fields of crops, away from a small suburban town. Interior, Ford. Rust Cole is staring out at the passenger seat with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. Marty is in the driving seat with one arm on the wheel. Don't you just look at this shit and get the sense there's something rotten, something festering beneath it? Picket fences, lines outside the church, smiling temples towards capitalism. Hey, look, man, can you just stop with that shit for a second? I've seen it before, man. It'll happen again. Time's a flat circle and we're all... Don't you think it would take us like 30 years to solve mysteries if we actually did some detective work and stopped driving around being sullen and doing character work? Crime solved when the crime's solved. That's such a nothing phrase. It is what it is, man. Maybe you can call Chief, see if she has any undercover stuff you can do. I love doing that shit and I get some peace and quiet. We both win. Rust picks up the radio and calls in. Hey, Chief.
Look, Rust, I have no time for this. How about you be a bartender or a mechanic or someone who's stuck in his high school glory days trying to hit on younger girls?
I don't know, Chief. Doesn't that sound kind of problematic? Like, what crime am I even supposed to be investigating?
Think before, LinkLater.
Are we?
I should be paid for to do this.
Huh? What? Direct to DVD. Hello and welcome to Think Before, LinkLater, the podcast where we talk through Richard Linklater's filmography. Today we're doing Dazed and Confused. I kind of wanted a tagline. I was thinking this is the podcast where we smoke yesterday's weed and think tomorrow's philosophies. You think that works?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
There's a lot of weed in this film, to be fair.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
I wouldn't say it's a stoner comedy.
First of all, what constitutes a comedy?
This is what I mean about tomorrow's philosophies. It's got comedic elements. I definitely laughed more at this than I did at Slacker, for example.
There is a big step from Slacker. Like, okay, there's definitely more narrative, but is there plot?
Yeah, I think there's a plot.
Yeah, but not really.
There is.
Okay.
It's the last day of school. The seniors are going up to their final year. The freshmen are coming into their first year, and it's kind of coming of age. And you've got all the classic cliches of the high school story. Then there's going to be a party, and then there's not a party, and then there is a party. That's a plot.
Yeah, but barely. There's no like climax to anything. There's no like lesson learned. There's no like big breakup or friendship or life lesson learned. It felt like again.
Yeah, I disagree with you there because the main kind of smaller boy, he's the bullied kid at the start, and then he kind of gains some street cred by the end, and he's kind of accepted by his not his peers, his elders have taken him. And
I get what you mean, but I think there were a lot of smaller stories happening rather than one big main plot. And yes, the kid has one narrative, and then there's the Pink has another narrative of will I sign the paper or will I not? But I felt like there was no big epic story. It was just a lot of smaller stories going along.
Yeah, I mean, it's not fucking Gladiator, but stuff happens. There are arcs.
Yeah, yes, I get it, but it didn't feel like big arcs. For me, it was a step up from Slacker in terms of narrative, but still, I know where Linklater can go in his narration, and this is still not there.
Yeah, but it all happens over the course of one day as well. So how much is really going to change over one day? Even if it's the most formative day of your life, you're not going to be a different person the next morning, are you?
No, I'm not expecting a different person. But anyway, okay, let's agree to disagree. Because I keep repeating myself.
Well, we've really flipped the script here because it seems like I like it and you didn't. But
I'm not saying I didn't. I'm just saying it's not one of those movies that is like really plot driven.
But it does all the characters do come together at the end in one location, which is kind of what I wanted from Slacker, is lots of different
Ah,
stories and then they all coalesce into something,
mhm.
which they do here.
They join in one setting, but still don't get one narrative. Still a lot of smaller narratives.
I guess we should talk about our high school experiences then. Soccer made me angry because I related to being in your early 20s and just sitting around drinking beer and not really doing anything and just warbling
Hmm.
on. And this
Yeah.
one made me angry because I didn't get invited to any fucking parties in high school. I think I maybe went to one bar mitzvah and that was it.
So I come up from a place where the high school thing is very different in terms of vibes than the American high school.
Well, even this isn't really what it's what high school, an idealized version of what high school was like in the 70s. It's not like actually.
I'll get back to that later, but it does feel like one high school experience. Doesn't feel like a very nuanced approach to high school.
Yeah, you've got the jocks and the nerds, the cool
Yeah, but
kids and
in
stoner.
this movie, every character, yes, smokes weed, is out to get high, get drunk, get laid. But that's not every student in high school. Like even the jocks, some of them don't want to smoke. So, like in this movie, it felt like every character was sort of the same, but not. You know what I mean? It didn't
So
feel
you
like
just
there
wanted
was
the film to follow someone who was at the last day of high school and then just went home, watched a bit of TV, had their dinner, and went to bed, that kind of thing.
no.
You didn't want to
At
see
first of
interesting stories.
No, how did my words get misinterpreted into that? First of all, I didn't want anything for the movie to be anything that it's not. I'm just commenting on what it is, which felt like although there were different characters, it didn't feel like a very three-dimensional representation of high school
No,
because most
yeah,
of the characters were pretty much sort of anticipating something to happen, wanting the night to turn into something, but it doesn't really. Most of the characters were having the same ideas. There weren't a lot of different juxtapositions of experiences or any of that sort.
I think the juxtaposition comes because this was made in 1993 and it's looking back at the 70s and going, look how much freedom people used to have. Look how kids used to spank each other and go through these
Mhm.
crazy hazing rituals and knock down letterboxes and be out all night without their parents worrying too much. Like it's not like that anymore. That's the juxtaposition. It's like a
Yeah.
hyper realistic version of nostalgia.
Yes, and that is where it reminds me a lot of Slacker, of sort of the nostalgia aspect of looking at the 70s, thinking it was this bygone era of sort of the cusp of adulthood was much different back then than it was in the 90s. However, because it is someone in the 90s writing about the experiences in the 70s, it didn't feel like actually this is the 70s. It's just a representation of what the 70s were like.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
why it felt, for me, watching it, it felt not very nuanced. It felt monolithic of like, this is what I think the 70s are. Bell bottoms, shaggy hair, weed, cool music. And it felt like, okay, this is not really the 70s, it's just what we think of as the 70s.
but that's the point of the film, isn't it? It's like here's every single cliche in every single American teen movie, have all of them, have like the most obvious songs, have the most over the top, like nerd jock dynamic. Here's all of it. This is what you want.
Is that the whole point of the movie?
Kind of what I got from it. It's
Mm.
okay, maybe you didn't. I don't know.
No, no, no. It's just for me. I get what you mean.
I
Maybe if I watch it multiple times, I would get different things out of it. But maybe I'm looking at it from the perspective of now how high school movies or high school series are made. The high school experience. There are so many different kinds of characters and peoples and cultures and communities in the same school that this felt like lacking depth.
Yeah, because it's not a series, it's a 100-minute
Yeah, but I
film.
could again refer to one movie where you know what I mean? And it doesn't even need to be like 21st century viewing it, but it felt very one-dimensional.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote down some other high school movies that this kind of made me think of, or just similar things. Ferris Bueller,
Hmm.
Breakfast Club,
Yeah,
both came up before it, but Breakfast Club, I guess, does have those nuanced
yeah,
characters
exactly.
because it only has 5 characters, and this has like a million characters.
Yes, and it's also set in one particular afternoon, and the whole point of the Breakfast Club is these weird characters that all come from different backgrounds that all join together and you see the similarities. So I get the point of that movie creating so much difference between the characters. Here, I think the opposite was the aim of like, let's represent one experience, not as sort of varied. It wasn't my cup of tea. Can I say that I didn't love, that I
We'll
kept
come to the
seeing?
ranking bit later. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, okay.
they're caricatures, aren't they? It's kind of
Exactly. I'm
Linklater
not
playing around
saying
with
the
some
whole,
toys and like.
and I'm not saying I didn't like the movie. I'm just saying how high school and these characters were represented was like a cup of tea. I
Yeah,
prefer more in-depth, more sort of human experiences rather than a sort of superficial representation of the 70s.
the thing it reminded me a lot of, and I don't know if this makes any sense, but this is a thought I had watching it, is The Simpsons. Because this may as well be a cartoon, for the characters are caricatures, cartoon characters. Like the science
Hmm.
teachers wear bow ties, the PE teachers are in like these pulled up shorts, and they're like kind of slapping the boys on the bum and going, "Ooh, but you can't write your own name unless it's spelled out in front of you," and stuff like that. And the stoner's like making a bong in his woodworking class. It's ridiculous. It's not real. I don't think it's presented to be real.
No, I think it's very much, for me, it felt like it's presented as this is what Richard Linklater thinks 70s were. I think it's real for a very select few of people.
But you're
I
saying
don't
he
think
he
it's,
thinks it's real.
I think it's his representation of what the 70s should have been like, or if he's going to look back at in a nostalgic way at the 70s, this is the representation he's going to put forward. So it's real to him and he's making it real to us through the movie. But I don't think it's a real representation of what the 70s are.
No, yeah, it's not accurate.
But going back to like personal experiences of high school, I remember like being around groups of people, getting drunk, having those first conversations about life and how horrible life is in your in your teens, and how you can't wait for your adult life to actually start. Or sort of, is this really it?
I thought Malta would have that more kind of small town vibe that this has, where everyone kind of knows each other and you have like the town
Yeah,
characters and
yeah,
stuff.
we do. I mean, the reality is we often used to hang out in the town square or town park, and it would be the same 30 kids, and everyone would know each other, and can't really escape that. So you either manage to hang out with those people, or you'd have to relocate to a different town or
Yeah,
get
you
go.
used to go
And
to
which
the airport.
no, I didn't because I didn't live close to the airport, but people
Okay.
who lived close to the airport, that's where they hang out. I hung out with people in the next town over. So I used to have to catch a bus to meet with my friends. But we were always the same 30 kids. Most of them I went to school with, but I went to an all-girls school, and then the rest were boys from boys' school. And we'd hang out most weekends and in the summer most night. I mean, we were good kids, so we just stick to alcohol. I remember having those conversations late at night. We thought that these years were going to be so much bigger and so much more exciting, and we'd be trying to make up plans for those big things to happen. I remember having conversations of like, when are we going to lose our virginity, and how is it going to feel like, and why are boys still so silly? I thought they were going to be so much more exciting than they were. And I remember having this sort of multiple times, these conversations of, I thought our teenage years were going to be epic, but they're just not. They're just a lot of maths homework and and the same people all over again. And I had this sense of can't wait to be actually an adult and get freedom.
That was going to be my
It's not
next
enough.
question of whether you just used to drive around at night
No.
and not really doing anything, just driving.
No, because we could get our license at 18, not 16, and I got mine at 19 actually. So I was already in university when I got my car.
American high
But
schools are so weird, man. Like,
hmm
there's no uniform. Some guy just turns
hmm
up at school with a weed leaf on his shirt, and that's allowed.
yeah.
Like, people get cars so early. Clearly, a lot of the actors in this film aren't of high school age, but are playing
No.
high schoolers.
Yeah.
But they do tend to look older, but that might just be because they're always old people playing younger people.
Yeah.
First of all, I didn't even realize it was Ben Affleck because I didn't know.
Me too.
But
All the other big stars I recognized. Ben Affleck, I literally saw the entire movie and then after realized it was him.
and when he first turns
Yes.
up, I thought, oh, this is like an adult. This is like the janitor of the school or something. But no, he's
Yeah.
supposed to be like the same age as them. He's
Yeah.
not even the
What
one
is
who's
it?
been held back a year, is he? One of them's been
Yes,
held.
yes.
Oh,
No, he's not.
no,
I don't
okay.
know why it was a thing back then to cast like 30-year-olds or 20, late 20s actors to play 16-year-olds. When clearly like child labor laws were much more lax back in the time. I don't understand. All of them look way old. Even the girls, they're way more womanly than I remember 16-year-olds to be.
Yeah, like
Just
I teach this age group, and these people do not look like they belong in a
no,
secondary school. Like if they
no.
well, outside my secondary school I was teaching at, I would call the police, I think. And then we go
I
again
keep
to
talking.
the Matthew
Mm-hmm.
McConaughey of it all.
Iconic, all right, all right, all right.
I didn't realize
Yeah.
that was from this film.
I mean, I didn't realize it before I saw it, but then as soon as I think I realized, oh, it's probably his first words he ever utters on screen. But they're so iconic. It was interesting to see him at that age when we know him now as a 50-year-old
I think he's 24 or something in this.
playing 24 or acting. Oh,
I think
is it too late?
he is 24, yeah. Which explains why he has so much hair, I guess. Never seen him
Mm-hmm.
with so much hair.
No, he does have hair. He does.
Okay,
It's just
fine.
like probably slicked back, but in this movie, it's like it's a horrible bowl cut. So what can you say? He's also like younger, smaller because he usually looks buffer or bigger. I don't know, but it felt like a mini Matthew McConaughey.
Like his son or
Yeah,
something.
but he shows up as this older character who's somehow dumber with the cigarettes rolled up in his sleeve
Yeah, he has
and to
this
be
kind of
teaching.
big like rock star shot where he walks into a bar like with a woman on either arm, and he's kind of like the king of the place kind of thing. And I clapped, Maria. I clapped.
Mm-hmm.
I literally clapped, sitting there by myself. Because I was like, this film is kind of dragging a bit. Now we're 40 minutes in. Matthew McConaughey, yay! And then 5 minutes later, I was like, shit, he's a creep. He's a really bad person who's preying on high school students.
Yeah,
But he's so cool, he kind of gets
preying on
away
high
with
school
it.
students, literally preying on and not with me, but he clearly gets away with it in the movie. He's seen like a god by everyone in the movie, although he shouldn't really. It's like he's dumber than everyone else, but because he's older, somehow everyone's turning to him for advice and for the way to. Okay, this is how a boy should be in high school, and this is what every girl should dream of getting with. Like, no, he's literally dumber than everyone else.
I think
Which is high school, really. Like the dumbest people are leading the pack most of the time.
yeah. I think in the 90s it was kind of starting to be seen as not on to do that. In the 70s it might have been okay, like borderline. But looking at it in 2024, it is just very unsettling. Can you not pick on women? Because you are picking on women your own age, please.
He literally says it. This is why I love high school girls, because I grow older and they stay the same age. Like,
Yeah.
that's not something you should be quoting. that is a phrase that would get you cancelled in 2024. But no, I think if we're going to mention like morality and all of that, there are certain scenes which are pure violence in this movie. Boys hitting with the bat the freshmen, and the girls with the initiation thing, which was also very weird.
See
And
that
it's
I
complete.
didn't. I the girls one I thought kind of made sense because there was a bit of camaraderie there. It was like do this thing for a bit, and then afterwards, we'll wash you off, and you're accepted. You're part of us. With the boys, they were bullying
No,
them,
yes,
and
with the boys, it was purely just harassment and bullying. I agree with that. I mean, it was assault, non-consensual. I get that. But when it comes to initiations, and I mean, in this movie, I felt although it was consensual, it was still like shame was involved, belittling. I mean, women were literally on their knees begging men to like, will you marry me? Like, again, none of that would fly nowadays.
no.
But I think the movie really captures is this like attitude that things are completely normalized. These acts of violence were completely normal back in the day. It was how people operated, and there's no like real repercussions to any of it. There's no
Yeah,
characters that are going or anything of that kind. It's just
that's
part of the story.
quite true. I think the three kind of nerdy characters, they do have a conversation about it and how it's kind of stupid.
Yeah, but stupid is very different than this is disturbing, which shouldn't be allowed. They question like, oh, this is uncool, and this is maybe we should have evolved a bit from this kind of behavior. It's very different from these are actually not okay behaviors, and we shouldn't just be sitting around and watching them or allowing them to happen, which is the conversation that would happen today if that behavior was in a movie today.
Yeah, like Pink goes to smack the boy's bottom and then he just does it very lightly and lets him off, but he's still just let his friends do that and let them get away with it and
Yeah.
not challenge their behavior. So
At
it's
all.
like
And then it's like, oh, it will be fixed with a couple of beers. Like, no, it won't.
that's all you need. It's generational trauma. I just didn't understand how it was seen as so masculine to be obsessed with like knowing the names of which little boys' bottoms you wanted to smack. That's the weirdest
I,
thing.
I will say this, sometimes straight men act so gay and they don't even realize. And a lot of the time it comes to play when there is wrestling. The more macho we are, somehow certain behaviors, like, are you really not understanding that you're fixated with teenage boys' bums right now? And that's literally the gayest thing you can do. I've said this multiple times. Sometimes macho white men don't realize that their behavior is
Yeah, they've got some kind of
homoerotic.
wire twisted in their brain where they think
Yeah.
that girls will be impressed if they like
Is it?
spank little boys. The girls very much throughout the film see them doing it and they're like, "Stop! Why are you doing that?"
But is it like to impress girls? This is because I feel this is where patriarchy really like lets down men. It's this male gaze where they think, oh, women will love this, when in actual reality it's just men who are going to love it, and women are looking at you like, what the fuck is going on? So like,
I'm
yes,
not a
this
woman, so I can't comment.
no, but I mean, this displays of like, let's be tough and violent, and no woman finds that really attractive. I never understood why men think that women will be swooning at the thought of someone bullying someone else.
Yeah, I'm with the groups of guys sometimes, and they start kind of like play fighting with each other. It makes me feel really strange. Like, why is this some kind of ritual? Why are we doing this? I didn't join in. I'm never invited to join in.
If we're talking about all of this, I mean, that is one of the themes of the movie, or the white machoism that keeps happening, where all the boys feel like they have to act in a certain way, be tough, not really show much emotion. Probably that was normalized in the 70s of being macho and strong and the brute. And we see it even with the freshman, Mitch, who starts off as being this nerdy freshman who's getting his ass kicked. And then by the end, he's become cool just by playing macho and fitting in. And that's kind of the narrative of like you see that even with Pink, he could literally have decided to sign or not sign. But the reasons why why he signs the paper in the end. Not signs it, sorry. It's just to fit in and be as much as his friends. Kind of a big team in the movie.
Take your time. Start over again, Bob.
Harry, what are you saying?
What are you saying, Jack?
What are you saying, Bob? What are you saying?
I was gonna say, why is there this cliche of boys who are really good at sport, but then they're also really clever or really talented, and they have to choose between the two, and they're so conflicted? And you don't want to hear this, but Connell from Normal People is also that trope.
This is what I think, okay? I'm not saying it's reality, but I think there is this social narrative that you either have to be left-brained or right-brained. And if you're a jock, then you can't be artistic. And if you're intelligent, then you can't be sporty or athletic. It's like we pigeonhole people. That either you're pretty or you're dumb, or you're intelligent or you're ugly Betty, whatever. It's not fair, and that's why I keep mentioning the fact that even in this movie, we don't see a lot of depth. Yes, we get, okay, he's a jock, he plays football. Okay, they're kind of nerdy because they don't have friends, so they must be intellectual. Yeah, we see those lines being drawn of, oh, he's plays football, then he can't be intellectual and make up his own mind, or he's not allowed to be. But do we really get to see the frustration of having a complex character?
Yeah,
not
we
be
do.
acknowledged by
He's got that whole line where he's like, why do we play football just to get girls? We could start a band and then we'd get girls just as much. So
Yeah, but it's just a line. We don't really see these.
that's
Again,
when the
I don't.
performances come in.
But from my end, it didn't feel like we're really acknowledging this. We are almost playing into it more than actually trashing it out in the movie.
Fine, you win.
No, I don't need to win. It's just opinions. We don't go beyond seeing the characters for those very superficial labels of stoner, jock, nerd, freshman, slut, whatever. Because we don't really flesh out any of the characters. And you
Yeah.
can't really do that because, again, as we were saying, it's not about a specific character that we get to dive deep into their psyche or across time. It's just one afternoon and it's a bunch of people, so you can't really flesh things out.
I guess that's when we're going to director hallmarks. So that's very similar to Slacker, isn't it? It's capturing a certain time period, a certain place, and a certain atmosphere and culture that's happening there. I'm not really focusing on anyone in particular. So I think that's what Linklater is trying to do. He's not trying to do, like, nobody gets an amazing monologue in this film. Like, nobody, I don't think anyone's bad. I think the guy who plays the main little kid, Mitch Kramer, I think he's very good with what he's given. Yeah, no one's a bad actor. They're not really doing anything.
I would argue that there are a couple of scenes which made me question the acting, but I see young actors, so I won't thrash them out a lot. Imma. No, I mean, the reality is none of the characters are given enough time on screen for us to really get our hearts attached or see any kind of in-depth analysis about the specific character. Yes, some are given a bit more time and you see a bit of an arch, but I mean, it's limited. And speaking of characters, I always bring this up, but like, why are all these narratives are about white men and literally female characters are just given very short dialogues, and the same goes for, I think, persons of color. They're just props for the white male perspective again.
But that's the only thing he knows how to do.
No, it shouldn't be.
Oh, if he was trying to do something else, you'd call it appropriation, wouldn't you?
No,
So,
we don't call it appropriation. There are plenty of successful directors and screenwriters who are able to write about different experiences other than their own. It's not appropriation if you do it in the right way, if you acknowledging different experiences, as this is not what I went through, but this is what other people are going through. And I mean, for me, it's really problematic that we have a 90-minute movie where female characters only get a couple of sentences. Same goes for people of color. They get a couple of sentences and literally no narrative, no arc, no. They're literally just there to prop other white males. If I feel like most characters are very superficial, then I feel that female characters and people of color were literally have no depth whatsoever.
I had to write down the names before we started just to remember what
Yeah.
everyone was called. And I think I've written down about 12 names and 2 of them are girls. And I've just described them
Yeah.
as like the Queen Bitch girl and Pickford's girlfriend.
Exactly.
And the girl nerd.
Yeah, so the girl nerd is literally there to support the other two nerd characters of them having these existential conversations about how high school is dumb, and she's going like, yes, yes, yes. Then there's the Pink's girlfriend, which is basically portrayed as this annoying girlfriend that he wants to cheat on, but she's still there by the end. And then there's Mitch's sister, who just plays annoying older sister part.
I'd argue with that. There's a really nice sibling moment at the end, I think, where they like meet up at the party in the forest, and she's like seeing him drunk. You know, Mum's gonna kill you for this.
Yes,
and
yeah. But
it's
is that really a character? It's like literally
it's a nice
it's
sibling moment.
for him, not for her. She
Well,
literally is the stereotypical older sibling of being slightly annoying, slightly protective, of I've done this before you, but I was mistreated by my parents. You're going to get so lucky because you're your younger sibling.
okay.
If
You really hate this
again,
movie.
I don't love it. No, I don't. But again, I know Linklater is able to create super in-depth female characters. We will see it later on. This movie didn't manage that, and I can't call a spade something else.
I think Linklater makes very one idea, one note kind of films, and once you get it, like about 20 minutes into this, I got it. I was like, this is American high school cliches, and it's the last day of school, and that's going to be the rest of the movie. But there's still an hour 20 left of that, so I guess we're in for the ride.
In other movies, I will disagree with this premise, but in this one, yes. I bring in, did it have really a plot? Not really, because we got the gist of it pretty much in the beginning, and there was no like arch, this character is going to develop or change or grow.
I think the moment I got the idea is when all the kids are leaving school and it needle drops on school's out for the summer. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah, it's pretty on the nose. I'm going probably to sound, but you know me and my music choices. I loved the soundtrack of the movie. I know it's like it's not super original, but it's such a like good soundtrack if you want to think of the 70s and the nostalgia of the 70s. That they just had to have classic 70s songs, and they did, and it was nice.
It was good and it was nice. I agree.
Okay. Yay. We agree on something. Funny that it was named after a Led Zeppelin song, but no Led Zeppelin songs were in the movie.
I don't know enough about that type of music to comment.
Okay.
I know they're going to get Aerosmith tickets.
Aerosmith tickets.
At the end.
So Dazed Confused is a Led Zeppelin song, but actually there are no Led Zeppelin songs on the soundtrack. But yes, there is Aerosmith on the soundtrack, Black Sabbath, Kiss, Leonard Skinner. It was a very good, if people don't know what the 70s are when it comes to rock and roll, they have a good taste there, because the movie felt like we're representing a nostalgic point of view of the 70s. It was the right kind of vibe, especially because the 70s rock scene was getting a resurgence in the 90s.
Yeah, that's the thing. None of these songs were actually popular in the 70s. They were like album tracks, and then they became popular, and now Linklater is kind of inserting them into the 70s. But kids in the 70s actually would have been listening to completely different.
Yes and no. It depends.
But then
Some
they're
of
all
the kids.
adiegetic, so it doesn't matter if they would have
What does
listened
that
to it.
word mean? Adiegetic.
Diegetic is when it's audio that's in the film and the characters can hear it, and adiegetic is when I really hope I'm getting this the right way around. And adiegetic is when it's the soundtrack, it's the characters can't hear it. It's
But makes sense again. Kind of music that was chosen.
a little bit of
But
film
anyway.
knowledge for you there
Yes,
on this
thank you.
film
Thank you.
podcast.
Yes, thank you.
Finally, before we do the ranking of Thinker, Linker, Stinker, I do want to discuss whether Matthew McConaughey is so charismatic and gives such a good performance that he is actually cool, and he's so stupid that you kind of believe that he's just kind of a lovable idiot and he isn't a dangerous predator, which he really is.
The movie felt like most of the acting wasn't a far reach. Like these were actual kids who probably understood the stoner scene. But, however, saying all of this, when it comes to Matthew McConaughey, you see good acting even at that young age.
Well, they literally found him in the bar while they were filming this, and then they cast him based off of that. And it was supposed to be a really small character initially, but because he worked so well, they were like, make him a major part of the last half of the film.
And fun fact, or not so fun fact, his dad died while they were filming.
Yeah, that's a horrible fact.
I'm sorry, but I mean, what that meant is they had to go around his schedule because he needed to go back home and do the funeral and all of that. And that's a testament how good of an actor he was. They were willing to move around his schedule, given that he wasn't a main character, because there are no real main characters in the movie. I mean, he's a great actor, and you can see parts of that even in this young age. But the reality is he's allowed to be a violent character, basically a villain, but not really a villain because they're completely adored by everyone. Because that's how things were back then. It didn't matter if you were a bully, it didn't matter if you chased women unconsensually, because at that time these behaviors were okay. They were normalized.
No one faces any consequences throughout the film.
No, not really.
Several people get guns pulled on them, but then it just kind of goes away. That did make me laugh when the bully chases them to the door and the mum opens it with the shotgun. That was very funny.
Also, the scene where they threw the bowling ball on the car, and then the neighbor came out and shot them. That was also funny.
I thought that was harrowing. I was really worried these characters that I'd come to care for and love for were gonna get seriously hurt.
No, for me it was clearly the portraying. I think he was one of the very, very few, if not only, character who wasn't a high school kid. Basically, like a stupid adult. That's his role in the movie.
There's the dad as well, the dad who stops the party.
Yeah, and the mom at the end when Mitch goes back home. But they're all dumb and clueless adults, and of course they're not going to catch on to us. Or there's the coach as well who can't understand us. They're too old to understand us, so they just play like, again, really superficial characters of just they're here as party poopers, so that's it.
And not a police officer to be seen. So I guess in this universe, the last day of school is kind of seen like the purge in a way, where you can just do whatever you want.
Like, can you imagine that many high school kids collecting in one spot in the woods? How scary that actually is.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, it's so easy for the scene to get rowdy and dangerous. If you were a police officer, you would just steer clear. Why would you go into like an area where there are hundreds of kids who are all on drugs or drunk? Like, no, next shift will take care of this.
But that's the way it was back then. Like, you just got let out of the house, ran around, be back in time for tea.
I don't think that's the 70s in Malta.
Well, yeah, I didn't experience that either, but...
But I mean, think literal 70s in Malta felt like the 20s. We're still very Catholic, very conservative. I mean, when I think of the 70s, it's my mom's age, right? Like she was a teenager in the 70s. They still listen to Led Zeppelin and all of that. And because I have photos of my uncles wearing his costumes, but not a lot of rowdiness.
Yeah, you were still stuck thinking that Hitler guy is a pretty charismatic leader, isn't he?
No, it's always Jesus. Jesus.
No.
Jesus is the way.
Well, Jesus is still the way all over the world.
Conservative doesn't mean fascism. Conservative means very Catholic.
No, I just mean it was
Yes.
the 20s, so the Second World War hadn't happened yet, so you didn't realize how
Yeah.
evil he was.
No. We're a British colony. We know that the pitfalls of fascism. We were against the Germans. But what I mean is like our values and morals were very, very, very rigid and conservative, and people weren't partying like we see in the movies.
Okay, so thinker, linker, or stinker?
I have to admit I didn't like it. So I didn't want to admit it. But there are so many aspects of it that are problematic and don't gel with how I want to watch a movie. So thinker for me. Because I hate being harsh. Probably I'm going to get a lot of slack because most people think it's a good movie, but it's not my kind of good movie.
I'm gonna invent a new one and say
It's not fair.
it was you can as well. There are no rules. It was a funker because I had fun watching it.
That doesn't make sense. So that's the only good thing. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, it was entertaining. I laughed a bit. I liked Matthew McConaughey, even though he played the villain. It was very hyper realistic and exaggerated and obvious, but that was kind of the point. There was enough character stuff and enough development there to keep me kind of interested, but I'm coming at that from a white male perspective, so it was probably made for me. So yeah, I would say funker.
No, then I would say the opposite. It made me think. It made me question things, but it was never fun. It was just annoying for me most of the time. I think I want a movie not to be obvious. That's the whole point. Like I get it. It's this is his undertaking. I get what he was going to do or what he was trying to do. It's just not what I want.
The other thing I did want to mention, they do the Rowdy Roddy Piper bubblegum line.
I came here to do two things, man. Kick some ass and drink some beer. We're almost out of beer.
I came here to drink beer and kick ass, and I'm running out of beer. Directly stolen from They Live.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Do you think
that was the first time it was ever used, yeah.
But is it a well-known fact that it was used?
Yes, it's a famous line from a cult movie that Richard Linklater had definitely seen.
Okay, so it's because I've seen the movie, but I've not known anyone else who's seen the movie except you and I, because you made me watch it. So for me, it has Richard Linklater actually seen this quote-unquote cult movie? Or have you blown the movie to be a quote-unquote cult movie?
They Live is a cult movie. It was in the IT crowd as well.
I came here to drink milk and kick ass. And I've just finished my milk.
I think Moss says, I came here to drink milk and play Countdown, and then he drinks his milk and plays Countdown. And Richard Linklater is a thief.
Okay.